Hello, internet friends. My name is Bay, and welcome to the raid boss breakdown for Uunat, the Harbinger of the Void. I may have said bringer before, but there is no R there. He is the Harbinger, not the Harbinger. Look it up, sister. But today, this is the raid boss breakdown, organic discussion, looking through the dungeon journal and looking at the PTR footage from the Fat Boss guys. Their video is going to be played over and over again as we look at different things, try to break stuff down, and talk about phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, and sort of how a guild approaches one of these encounters and sees what we can find and figure out and come up with. And if you want to join us on this adventure, then stay tuned. We did have the Restless Cabal before this one coming out, but now we are in the Uunat era. So with that, enough of my face. Here is Uunat, the Harbinger. Binger? Of the Void. Alrighty then. So Uunat, the Harbinger. Harbinger? When she struck her bargain with N'Zoth 10,000 years ago, Queen Najara offered one of her most devoted followers into the old god's service. Now Uunat and the crawling masses he commands herald the coming of their master, and as foretold by the stars. So a 3-phase fight, and the overview just says, Uunat battles his enemies using the gift of N'Zoth, offering power and corruption. Only when the 3 relics of power do the forces of Azeroth stand a chance at survival. I guess with the 3 relics of power. And we brought those relics together to N'Zoth in the preamble quest, and then we use them and empower them with the deaths of the first 2 bosses, and here the Restless Cabal. And then we use them against Uunat. So stage 1 calls upon the many eyes of N'Zoth to blast and confuse players. Stage 2 assists by waves of N'Zoth's minions who seek to overwhelm their enemies, which are literally just the same enemies from the 5-man dungeon or from the Yogg-Saron fight, awkwardly enough, which is interesting. And then in phase 3, which the Fat Boss guys never got to, or I don't think we have much information about that phase, uses the sheer power of N'Zoth's mighty gaze to wither and crush players. So it's going to be like a Gahoon, Jaina style of probably burn phase in that regard. So, but yeah, Dacky, I don't know. Do you want to start walking us through, or Messy? What do you guys have for this? We can start breaking everything down.
I don't see a lot of cool tricks on this one that we could do on the first one. There's not a lot of like gimmicky things we can do. Definitely more ranged characters. And less cleavy people too.
Well, the back and forth of this raid was that it was very much that it was very melee unfriendly. And Alex and Law say that in their video. But I don't understand why that is, because A, the boss is massive, and B, the room is kind of small.
Because the melee are going to be stacked up, which mean that all of my dots are going to splash on them. All fire mage damage splashes onto them. Because it's inevitable that you get mind controlled in this fight. And so melee is just going to, like tanks, and you're unhealable for 5 seconds, the entire raid is.
Right.
And so if everything lines up the wrong way, passive cleave can just really tear melee to pieces. So
yeah,
that's one reason. So
I guess I can go over the 3... The Stone, the Trident of the Deep Ocean, the Tempest Caller again, and these change somewhat in their application now. So, players, we pick these up, very Kael'thas-esque, and we will use these in the encounter to use their ability, and then we are going cooldown for, I think it's like 2 minutes before we can pick up them again, the same person. But so there's the Void Stone, the Trident, and the Tempest Caller again. And the Void Stone is for healers, the Trident is for tanks, and the Tempest Caller is for DPS. And what these do, so Umbral Shell, whenever a healer picks up the Void Stone, applies Embrace of the Void to all creatures and players. So whereas the interactions on the first boss fight was that we kill the boss, or bring the boss to 25% health, less 75, 20, 50, 25, near one of these, and that will essentially put their life force into the relic and empower it, and then we have to deal with the relic's just thing. And in Heroic and Mythic Bay, a little bit different on how we have to do it, if it's light switch or not, or if it's an ABC kind of rotation. But in this, we pick them up and use them. So in this way, they'll affect both us and the raid boss and the ads. The Embrace of the Void will put a debuff on everyone. The caster, the person that picks up the healer that picks up the actual umbral shell, gets a huge absorb shield, just shy 300,000, 262,000. The Embrace of the Void means that nothing can be healed during the debuff. So Void energy snakes out to all creatures and players, reducing all healing they receive by 100%. And the feedback is that when Void energy overwhelms the caster, making them unable to pick up the Void Stone for a duration. So this is the same thing for all of them, feedback, ocean, etc. And they can have this on for as long as the absorb shield is active. Embrace the Void is removed if the shell is broken. So that's the healer mechanic. The tank mechanic, the Trident of the Deep, is Custody of the Deep. So this was the one from the first fight that did the giant bubble. The Ocean's Guardianship creates a protective bubble for the caster and its allies, redirecting 75% of the damage taken into the bubble, or to the bubble itself. So this is a stack up. The tank can pop this to alleviate a ton of damage going out to us. This can be combined with the effect, say, of the Tempest Caller, which is the DPS one. We can get into a little bit. The Abyssal Collapse is when Embrace of the Void expires, the bubble erupts and inflicts frost damage based on the absorb remaining. So they has an interaction with Embrace of the Void that if you pair them up and the absorb shield on the umbral shell isn't soaked off, basically, then the Abyssal Collapse will explode for the damage on that shield. I imagine that's what it sounded. Embrace of the Void, and that would.
You need to put it up during heavy damage so that it gets burst.
So it gets bursted down.
Yeah.
And then the Tempest Caller is similar to what we saw on the Cabal. So you release a decimating Tempest for 15 seconds, inflicting about 20,000 nature damage to players and lesser minions of N'Zoth every 1 second. So this won't affect the boss, but it affects the ads. And it causes targets to inflict 50% less damage for 3 seconds. Basically, it's 18 seconds of a debuff on us because the last tick will refresh and give us 15 seconds again. So, but it'll be 18 seconds of 50% less damage on the raid. But what this does is it will proc the Annihilate effect. So if any target gets hit by the Storm of Annihilation that's under 25% health, it will kill them, either the ads or us. But creatures destroyed in this manner do not trigger on death effects. So there'll be a rotation of when you want to use the tank debuff to counteract the raid damage. There'll be the healer shell, may or may not be used that often to stop the healing in the boss. And the Storm of Annihilation for DPS will be to pick up and deal with the ads. Basically.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go, those are all three of the main things. Because you were talking about the mind control. And the mind control is, I believe it's phase 2?
I believe so, yes.
Let me double check.
Yeah, it is in phase 2.
Because that is...
Yeah, okay. We're going to Gabriel. He was reading those because he covered them in the last spot, I assume.
Yeah. Because it's not technically a mind control. It's the same sort of effect we see a little bit in the rest of this Cabal.
Yeah, the hostile. But it's still... Well, my point was you can't heal them for 5 seconds, so...
Right.
So you can still damage them, but...
Which one is it? So the Maddening Eyes, the Piercing Gaze, this is just the ground effect and the room effect. The Void Crash is the giant thing, don't stand in it, I guess. Where is the mind control?
Oh, it's Gift of... It's in phase 3. Gift of N'Zoth, Lunacy. When he reaches 100 energy. I thought it was phase 2. It's phase 3.
Oh, it's just phase 3 only. Okay. So this is the same effect you get in phase 1 from Zakaj if you get hit by the frontal cone.
Yes.
And you just get... Everyone becomes hostile to you and you to them. So you just don't want to DPS them. But this hits the entire raid. Okay, so this is 3 then.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like this can be probably counteracted the best, because you talked about melee earlier, and this is why I wanted to bring this up. If we could Custody of the Deep, knowing we're going to have that going off, I wonder how that will interact with... I wonder how that'll save us from our own damage.
Yeah, we could freely damage into the bubble, probably. Right. Could be nice.
I don't know. I just don't know if it's also going to be a thing, because it'll be a time, it'll be a call out, right? It'll be, you know, quote unquote MC in 3, 2, 1, right? So you have to like make sure you don't recast. Like fire mages will have to just hope, I guess.
Don't open with combust in that.
They might also just not be fire. They could play frost, I guess, on that fight. But even frost could be annoying. So arcane it is then.
Yeah.
I mean, don't sunfire, right? Don't AoE, don't starfall. Like if I'm on my demon hunter for this, I won't be blade dancing. It's just yeah, no I-beam. I don't think that's not that scary. The biggest part about it is we all take 70,000 shadow damage on heroic. We'll look at mythic stuff in a little bit here, but and then we all just become hostile for 4 seconds.
All right, you want to start out with phase 1?
Yeah, because this is those are the. Yeah, go for it. What's he doing in phase 1? What do we have to deal with here?
He has an energy bar that seems to fill up at a continuous rate, so we don't actually affect the energy bar. And what it does is gift an Azeroth Obscurity, which at 100 energy he will cast raid wild damage, and then there's basically our zone of the encounter is going to shrink up to 4 times, which will put us really tight together. But it's all based off how long we're in this phase, and there are ways to extend the phase that we're going to avoid here. So he drops these Oblivion Tears on the ground, and if you take damage from them, they heal him for 1% of his health, and they will eventually just start to cover the floor up, and they need to be soaked by the healer that's using the Void Stone, because if they do that, he does not receive the healing from it. So if he's getting a bunch of these healings, then it extends how long he's in there, and he's going to do more of his energy bar cast, basically. So we want to avoid that.
Well, yeah. Well, the timing of that will have to be because nothing can be healed when we're soaking.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it'll depend on how often Oblivion Tears open, or Tears Oblivion, both. English is fun.
Yeah.
So
I think they're pretty often from the videos. They look like they maybe had 5 to 10 at any given moment, you know, depending.
Right. Well, eventually you need to soak them as one fell swoop, basically, right? So it won't. Yeah. It would definitely be a wait until so many are up on the ground, because they're the void zones, the purple void zones that are around the room, and one healer is not going to be able to even soak all of them in the first place. So,
well, that's the thing. I did see a lot of healers saying that. Once they used the stone, that even soaking every single one of them, they still didn't burst their own bubble, and they had to go stand in the ring,
right,
to get the debuff off them, because it must be just a massive amount of absorb on them. But
I don't know.
Maybe they'll be able to get them all.
Because
maybe we would give paladins or a monk something with the mobility.
Oh, paladin with double horse is kind of okay. I was thinking it'd be very druid monk.
Oh, yeah, druid.
Druid and monk would be the thing.
We only had a druid.
So, but, well, this fight screams druid with how much triage he needs to go out. It's not a big deal.
No joke.
This is monk shaman playground of this fight. Everyone's taking damage almost all the time, especially because of the AoE. But I don't know, the Umbral Shell is only 262,000. But the Oblivion Tears are 50k each, so that should only let you absorb 5 to 6.
Yeah. Should be. You know, tuning in PTR tuning, it's probably going to be closer to what you're saying in live.
Because it might have to be it's almost like soaking magma traps or something, right? In a way. So it'll be a top the raid off. There's too many tears on the ground. You know, healer grabs it. The raid can't be healed. We know there's not enough damage going out. You soak the 5 or 6 that you can, and then it plops off of you. And then it won't heal. Nothing will heal the boss.
Depending on our damage, 1% is that much. You know, I know it's not ideal, but
I mean, I
if we
can't
had
see.
to,
Zoom in on the footage. How much HP does he have? Does Uunat have? Because that's the one thing about this boss fight that it might not matter on heroic, but I imagine he's because Jaina has 140 million. I
he
wouldn't
has
be
118, I think,
108.
116.
Yeah, and heroic in 30. And
Yeah.
they're not even 30 man. So he's
No,
going to
they're
have
21.
close to or around Jaina HP for sure.
Right. So
1% is
not
14
super
million.
ideal, but in the case, we could do it.
If it's something like that. You don't want him to
he's
heal,
also-
obviously.
See the maddening eyes of N'Zoth. A multitude of eyes opening up, blasting a straight line of void energy, inflicting shadow damage. Players struck have their minds scrambled and are hostile for 8 seconds.
Yeah.
We do not want to be hit by that.
So these are the two things that look really stupid. So the straight lines of void energy, those are the two giant. No, sorry, those are the piercing gaze. Or the
No,
piercing
that's
gaze.
the piercing. These are the
Yeah.
maddening eyes.
So the piercing gaze just happened in the video. Those are the giant Hellion beams. Just you want to get hit by one, and then the other,
You want to stagger your dot. Don't refresh it, basically.
or don't get hit by any of them if you can blink through it.
Yep.
Essentially. And certain immunities might let this not apply. Cloak might work, AMS might work, stuff like that. But you,
Think you could jump that with a Demon Hunter?
I don't know if you can jump it. Depends on where the Z-axis is.
Yeah, you can blink Caber. Rip Displacer Beast, right?
Yeah. The piercing gaze is the stupid Swiss cheese purple crap on the ground, which I hope gets better. Because it's very, very clear where it's very, very clear where the edge is. It's a column. It's just a column. But it
looks like the texture they use for ooze from vanilla.
But it's just stretched. Yeah.
Yeah, basically. It dyed purple.
Yeah. So those are the two things. He does these whenever his Eyes in Azoth is just intermittent cooldowns, right? Probably just every so often.
Yeah, it just seems like it covers like maybe half of the play zone, and everyone needs to just move in and out of the zone.
Right, but that's just when I first saw the piercing gaze, the eyeballs. I mean, first it was Hellion, but then second it was also what was it, like Bracken Spore waves? Let's just move the raid to one side to avoid one, but then you have to eventually move back to another side to avoid the other.
Right.
Because
just time when we run through.
I don't know if the heroic.
Yeah, the sharks on Mistress, Caber said.
Yeah, I don't know if the heroic version of this dot, even if it doubles, is still not super scary.
It didn't look scary at all, did it? I mean,
but that's heroic. I mean, let me just.
I know it does stack the damage. They say so. Maybe the dot refreshes and then the damage doubles on it. So.
Well, okay, yeah. So I wanted to just.
Even then, it looks.
I just wanted to double check. So the damage goes up from 17k a second for 4 to 24k a second for 5. So it goes up quite a bit to Mythic. But we're going to have a lot more HP by then because of the Heart of Azeroth 2.0. That's why I don't know if it's going to feel as scary. But it's just...
2.0 won't be out for months, though, right?
Well, I mean...
This
is out... Yeah, sorry, 2 weeks, yeah. You're right. I guess the health scaling, we only go up by 10 eye levels. You're right. My brain.
Yeah.
Too much World of Warcraft today.
All right. Tank mechanic. He's got a frontal cone. Touch of the End. Blast frontal cone for shadow damage. Marks the current target for 24 seconds with a dot.
Is that... Oh, is it different durations? You have normal on, I think. No, 30 seconds. I see.
Oh, I don't know then. I'm on the website.
Oh.
Which I'm in game. I guess I could just pull it up there too.
Well, the database pull might be different because it might be pulling from the PTR or live.
Right.
I don't know.
Let's check it out.
It just it's 130,000 shadow damage for 30-second mark, and they take it's a dot for 30 seconds.
Yeah, but it's got the second function is all the Undying Guardians are drawn to that tank. So it's the needs to always be faced away, so basically tank thing, and then that interacts with the Undying Guardians, which
these are the ads from literally from Yogg-Saron.
The slithery, what are they called? Not
faceless.
Yeah, faceless ones. You're right. All right, they have to be tanked away from the boss, so I guess tanks will need to rotate whoever gets Touch of the End and drag them separated from because otherwise they
10
have
yards.
yeah, 10 yards, not too far. And what do we cleave those down? Shadow of Whispers.
Yeah, they have to be AoE down to a certain extent, but the only way they can die is to be hit by the
crown, right?
The crown, yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be a certain call where... Now, the weird thing about this is it depends on how annoying they are, because it seems to me that you would want to have both sets of ads up and then do one crown call.
Right.
But I don't know if that would mean you have two sets of Undying, and that's too much tank damage. But then you could also, again, you could 3-tank to have more tanks to rotate cooldowns through. Because I don't know if you'd want to get like a Guardian group, AoE it, Tempest Caller, kill them. And then you get the second ads, which we'll have to deal with in phase 2. Which will be the Primordial Mindbenders. I don't know if you'd want to do two at the same time. Cause it's the same sort of call, right? You get the ads, you damage them, you tank swap first off, you damage them, you crown call, and it kills them. You move on.
Right. Yeah, you just have to get them to 25, but I think you're right. We should just tank them until the second set.
It feels kind of scenarios to me. Like with the dragon in the back, where you ignore them for a long time until you just kill them all off. So... I don't know how long that'll be though. Between that's the timers thing, right? Because the way it sounds,
we'll have to see how many we can take.
Yeah,
how much the tank can withhold. But.
Right. And again, if you want a 3-tank, you could easily 3-tank in heroic, no problem, and just have more tank rotation cooldowns, right? Because if you might have to tank 2 spawns of guardians, then you're gonna want cooldowns on that tank or from the tank itself.
That seems to be all the mechanics in phase 1, though.
Yeah, phase 1 honestly looks like beyond raid movement and soaking the crap on the ground and not standing on the Swiss cheese ground. It's how many times do we activate the crown to kill the ads, and do we focus on? Do we have to do one clear and then a second clear on the intermission, or do you save all the ads to one intermission clear if your damage can get them to 70% fast enough?
And then decide if we're gonna how much times we clear with the void stone of the puddles. So we'll have to see how much room we have left and how fast we get to 70%.
In the footage you see right here, I'm gonna scroll it back a little bit. You see the ground Swiss cheese, and I can understand how it's a little bit confusing to watch, but this is when they first saw it. But right here, you'll watch,
wow.
Well,
is there a gap in the middle?
Yeah, there's a gap in the middle, but Laws runs all the way to the other side. He could have A, turned around, or B, stood in the middle. He could have stopped right there. See the break in the middle?
Yeah.
So that's the things people have to look for. It's actually just one giant column, and you stand between the breaks to not get hit by the
color that different though.
Hopefully it's like a bright pink.
Yeah, that would definitely help. Or just a good outline for it, maybe.
Good outline for it, sure. We'll have to see. But that's why I don't think it's that scary. Phase 1 also could just be completely nullified if the fight is actually long enough, where it's like a 10-minute fight and you get 2 heroisms. You would just lust this first phase to get out of it as soon as possible, and do one.
Pull an Argus, lust before the timer pull.
Oh gosh! Oh my god!
That was so terrible.
Yeah,
I hated that so much.
Lust, and then you take 20 seconds of lust on the pull.
Yeah,
it could be a thing. It could be a thing.
Yeah, could be.
It just depends on how much HP he has. And how long phase 1 lasts.
It's a 10-minute fight.
Well, the heroic version is going to fall over real easy. I don't imagine it's going to be a problem. It's just the mythic version.
I think we'll get through it in one night.
Because the scary things, I think, is that I will imagine he's going to have like 200 million health in a 20-man raid. And that'll just be hilariously big. But anyway, stage 2 starts at 70%. Still has the tank debuff. Still has the tears, the tears.
And the ads still come.
Yep, and his Gift of N'Zoth changes to the Hysteria.
Healing the ads for 50% of their max health now and giving them a 50% haste buff, which is going to wreck those tanks.
Yeah.
So we need to go into that phase with no ads up, definitely.
Sure. This is where I wonder what combination, because this is the curious things about this fight that I don't know how they're going to work, because we get to decide what works with what.
A lot of choices in this one. Pretty cool.
Now, to kill the ads that spawn, because we can have more ads in phase 2, do we combine the shield from the tanks and the Tempest Caller to death touch the ads, but not kill us.
That's the thing. We'll have to see how hard this storm hits too. Like,
well, I'm looking at heroic values right now because I'm not looking at the mythic mechanic just yet. So, but the heroic storm is basically my damage number might be different because I'm on my shaman, but it's 20,000 damage a second for 15. So it's just over. What is that? Is that 200?
Yours is 20,000. Oh, I'm on my shit warlock.
Yeah, mine's 21,000 nature damage essentially.
Yeah. I got 36,000 just under. So.
See,
This is a 360 geared character. So.
Something's weird. Yeah, it depends on how much damage it is.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, that's fine. The Storm of Annihilation is fine. The key of it is the death touch.
Yeah.
And that will work as long as it hits the mob once. Even if you're redirecting 75% of that AoE damage that was hitting all the ads into the tank shield,
yeah,
it'll still death touch them.
Annihilate, yeah.
It'll still death touch them.
And it might be, let's see. So we don't want them to hit 1%. If we're going to keep them from phase 1 and then kill, like, surely it won't restart his summoning cooldown, you know, if he hits phase 2. So
well,
if we could just kill the ones from phase 1 with your storm bubble, maybe. But
well, I'm phase 1. I think will be 1 clear, possibly 2.
Right.
I don't know where we would ever use the tank bubble in phase 1. I don't know if it's that big of a deal, but in phase 2, we're gonna have the Guardians up and the what's they called? The Primordial Mindbenders, which are quite literally the ads from the end of Shrine of the Storm. The ones you have to interrupt. They're the same thing. They're the exact same thing. You have to interrupt them, and if they get their cast off, they AoE the raid, and they reset their health to full. But when they die, they spawn essentially Shaw. They just reuse the Shaw model. I don't know how I feel about this, but they spawn Shaw, and to make them not spawn Shaw, they have to be death touched by the crown.
yeah.
And to have the Undying Guardians not be healed to full health, they have to be hit by the death touch of the crown as well. So it's a combination there.
Yeah, we'll have to manage both ads. Okay, he's got a new zone of, you guessed it, purple stuff to dodge called the Unknowable Terror, which is basically a big blue blob that does damage if you don't move out of it. But you have 8 seconds to move out.
So it's I actually looked. It has a model. It is one of the other like faceless one Mind Flayer dudes, but it's just this ability. I don't know where it is in the video here.
There. Oh god, there's so much shit going on right there.
It's this right here. It's the big slappy tentacles see on the wall here.
Yeah.
It's just like a giant, you know, 2/5 of the room, half of the room gets put in a giant circle. It's like the shark in Mistress. That's all that is. You just move out of it.
Yep. And it'll fear you if you get hit by it and do heavy damage to you. So.
Yeah, which is dispellable. It's just magic effect. So if anyone gets caught, we can always drop tremors and just in case. But that's just to move out. That's just a move out phase. The phase 2 is quite literally just ad control. It's an ad control phase.
These primordials, which don't need to be tanked, and they start casting Consume Essence.
Yep.
Which is interruptible, so we're going to have to manage interrupts. But it does damage to all players. Pretty heavy damage. And it leeches that life back to the mob. So if we miss an interrupt, they're going to get a lot of health back.
They don't look like, I mean, they're pushable, they're pullable. This is what we were talking about before. They are.
They are?
They
this
should
is
be
the one
grippable.
about gripping.
Yeah, this is the grippable mobs, pushable, typhoonable, druid, toiletable, all this stuff. But see right there, if you kill them without the crown going off, it spawns all the void spawns, and the void spawns are fine. They just are just ads, but each one that dies is 100-yard AoE for roughly 17,500 shatter damage per ad. And it looks like each one may have spawned 4 or 6 or so. So it spawned somewhere close to maybe possibly up to 12 to 15 to 18 of those things. And you don't want that at all.
No.
So it's just ad control. It's just it's an AoE, absolute AoE madness fight in phase 2, I feel. The problem is you have to time killing the ads with the crown, or if you can't heal through the crown, use the crown plus the tank shield, or you have to use...
okay, so we have to kill... They spawn the void spawns no matter what, it seems.
Yeah. No,
And
no,
we have to stop the explosion with the crown.
No. So there's two things you can do here. If you kill the mindbenders with regular damage, they spawn the void spawns. If you kill the void spawns by regular damage, they blow up. That's the train of events. If you kill the void spawns with the Crown of Tempests, they do not explode. If you kill the primordial mindbenders with the Tempest Crown, they do not spawn ads. So it's a two-prong effect.
So
you get to sort
another
of
choice we get to make. Huh.
Yeah. So I don't know if it is easier to, depending on
What
timings.
would be the benefit of that?
Well,
like,
if it depends on the timings,
why would
right?
we not just skip and just kill the mindbenders with the crown as
Exactly.
we did the other one? You know, I
That's-
don't know what's the benefit of bringing out the little guys. Basically, I don't know what that is.
It's not. There's no benefit at all. You probably don't want to, but I think
Yeah,
it
that's
comes
what I
down to
mean.
timing, right? So how far apart are ad spawns? How long can you interrupt crowd control the mindbenders and just bring them low? And how much AoE damage can you do to essentially corral two different HP groups of mobs? And I think if any mindbenders die and the little ones spawn, that's fine, but they're a bit of a trap. Because if you AoE and kill them while you're getting the other ones low without the Tempest Caller up, you will AoE down your raid group.
Yeah, so right.
But that also brings up the whole reason why you would use the tank shield. I don't know how much HP the Custody of the Deep has in this version. It has a different value, I'm sure, on the first fight. But it just makes me wonder what combination of abilities you will use. Do you let Mindbender spawn? Do you let ads spawn? Do you bring them together, start AoEing them down, and then you pop Tempest Caller and Custody of the Deep? So it'll eat all that damage, but I don't know if the shield will last long enough. So when do you time it to death touch the ads, but not be enough damage to break the shield to then AoE us down?
Right.
It's a timing thing. It's just a timing thing. It's just controlling the ads and a timing thing. And I don't know what you would do with the healing. I don't know what the Umbral Shell is used for in this phase, other than just to soak the tears again, which are still on the ground.
Right.
To give us space. So the only thing you got to work at the Void Crash that's new. Yeah, launches a massive.
Yeah, I was about to say that one.
That's just the
That's
general.
on heroic, I guess.
Yeah, general Vizax thing. It's on the first fight. Actually, it's from the first fight. You want to let
It's
it.
the bouncy one.
You want to let it bounce at least once or twice before you single soak it. Yeah. Yeah.
Not
You
too
want to.
bad. That's all that's new for phase 2. Really is basically like you said, ad control. So we'll have to see what combination or what order works best there.
Oh no! Wait.
All this depends on the timers though.
Oh, Void Crash is in only one. It's only in one. It's not in two. Actually, I'm double checking. Yeah, it's not in two. Two is just ad control. Because my thing is, if you have to do the Tempest Caller every time ads spawn to not get them hysteria'd, it depends on how often Uunat uses Hysteria.
Mm-hmm.
If it's an energy bar and it takes 100 seconds and 2 waves of ads spawn in that time and you can hold them until you can AoE them all down together, sure. But if it's much faster than that and you have to basically get Mindbenders, AoE them down with the Tempest Caller, and then when he casts Hysteria, it'll just AoE us, but empower nothing. And then he summons Guardians, so we have to find out where the teeter-totter is there.
Yeah, we'll see how many Guardians they can tank.
Yeah, again,
Sure, we can do some cheesy stuff there.
a third tank seems so silly for ad control fights.
Yeah,
Yep.
it just takes off so much pressure.
Yep. It does.
All right, phase 3, which is quite the mystery.
Yep.
A lot of people didn't get to do it, but more of the same stuff. Still, I think he does no more of the Mindbenders, right?
Correct. Mindbenders are gone.
Right, and the terrors, so the big slappy arms gone.
Yep.
His gift in Azeroth changes to lunacy, which when he reaches 100 energy, he will burst shadow damage to the entire raid and become hostile. So this is the thing we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Which, like you said, this is also a great time and most likely the correct time for our custody of the deep.
Yeah, it also depends. Again, this is the weird thing about how Blizzard always makes fights that aren't for more than 2 tanks, but at the same time, how long is the tank cooldown on Feedback Ocean?
Like it's 3 or 2 minutes.
I thought they were 2 minutes. I know the DPS one, I thought it said it was 2 minutes, but if they're all 2 minutes, that means we can only use the tank one twice within a certain amount of time before they're both on cooldown for 2 minutes. So that means it brings up even more potential to use 3 tanks.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying, definitely.
Having 3 uses of this, if you want to use it once in phase 1 and potentially twice in phase 2, and then maybe once again in phase 3, you might not have enough time.
It's 2 minutes per tank per player, and
Correct.
3 minutes. 3 minutes per player, but 2 minutes per use.
Oh, right.
So unless you wanted to use it within 3 minute window, you would still have it for the other tank.
Right.
As long as it's a 4 minute window.
I just know you're only going to have very few uses if you only have 2 tanks with the Trident.
Yeah, like you said, in the last phase, basically, you won't have enough to use it.
So I just don't know if you would want 3 tanks.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something to look at with this fight.
Yeah.
Even like a druid that could off DPS in phase 1, and the other, with like a feral affinity or a balance affinity or something.
Yeah.
Anything really. I don't know what tank does more damage, but something we'll figure out.
It's a very, very interesting thing to think about, that the possibility of more tanks than 2 makes a lot of sense when you have this huge cooldown that only tanks can use. That's a very long cooldown. But the gift of Azeroth happens in every single phase, just changes to which affix it affects. So it's always going to be that 70,000 burst of damage every time.
Yeah.
So
in the secondary.
And then the piercing gaze of N'Zoth comes back. These are these sweeping lasers again.
And then he has a new debuff called Insatiable Torment.
Yep.
Which is going to make you start taking damage and reducing all the healing you take by 100%. But the caveat is you get Feed on the Unworthy, which means you start siphoning life from your allies.
Yep.
And that's the only way you're able to heal now when you have this debuff, which is 10k health from all players in 5 yards every 2 seconds.
This, to me, immediately made me think of Heroic Legnaros with the multiple groups.
Yeah.
And you would basically have your insatiable tormented people. This is the soft enrage. Eventually, everyone gets this. And the only way for us to heal anybody is to eat each other's health. So, but again, if you pair up a tank shield with this, do you eat the health, but 75% of it goes to the shield? So you're only eating 25% of your allies' health, which slows the burn and the bleed of you killing your own raid members.
No, it's the text is stealing
Right.
the health rather than they take down. I don't know. I have to see how that works. It could be a way though, to just get free health from the shield, basically.
But this is my other thought that when I looked at this fight that I thought of, that 3 tanks makes a lot of sense, is that you could probably, I would imagine that the Insatiable Torment people don't feed on each other.
Yeah, because that would
be really funky. That would be really easy to abuse in a way. But you'd have your main tank on the boss, obviously tank swapping when it needs to, and you have the 2 other tanks with the tormented people feeding them health, and you just heal the 2 tanks. Like, you're already healing your tanks anyway. It's just a tank swap mechanic. And you just have a camp with your 2 extra tanks and your DPS that get the torment on them, and they stand around the tanks, and they just suck off their HP, which they have more HP and more mitigation. So I'm not too scared of that. It just depends on how fast it spreads, how many people get it. And that's one way you could deal with it, or you can just spread out, and You have to know the people get marked that have the torment, and the first couple of them just spread between the raid, so it's not a big deal. But as it gets more and more and more and more, you have to just basically make a big checkerboard. So you have, you know, the black spaces are the tormented people, and the white spaces are the rest of the raid. I don't know, or the red and black, or whatever colors you want to use for them. So I'm not too scared of that.
Yeah, doesn't look too bad.
The only issue that comes into play is if you have tormented people that are eating everyone's health that can't be healed. So everyone else is taking ticking damage from then. You get the Gift of Lunacy goes off. Everyone takes a chunk of damage, 70k or more, and then we're all hostile for 4 seconds. So any other types of damage we do to ourselves hurts the insatiable tormented people even more, because the sooner, I mean, granted, the sooner they die as well. Ankh totems, do they keep it through death? Can you brick those people and avoid the first 2 or 3 or 4 of them with totems or battle reses? So to help you, it's like it's that burn phase, right? It's that slowly you eventually will bleed out, Cahoon style kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm reading through some changes here. They added all the ads have Hunger for the End, which periodically increases their movement and damage done.
Are these the Undying
10%.
Guardians?
It's all ads.
Oh.
So I guess so people can't choose things. But at 15 stacks, the caster becomes immune to crowd control and interrupts. So there's no way to just permanently keep those Mindbenders up and just rotate interrupts on them. They have to be killed at some point, basically.
Yeah, that's not a new journal. That's going to be updated in the server reset on Tuesday then. Okay. So that changes again the teeter-totter. The first fight was very teeter-totter oriented, where you went, you know, ability. So I wonder.
See, there's more stuff they've added here.
Oh, is this in like
Undying Guardians? I'm on Wowhead.
Okay, yeah.
The Undying Guardians have gained feed, and once they reach 100 energy, they inflict 150% weapon damage and healing themselves for 40% of their max health. So we're not going to be able to just see how many we can tank, basically, of those. They're going to have a time that they need to be killed before.
If that's the
so
case...
You can get overrun, basically, if you don't manage that.
This sound right off the bat, this sounds like a 5 healed fight, then. Sounds like a 5 healed fight, because if you're going to have to crown down every ad wave spawn, that is roughly, over that 15 seconds, 300,000 damage to every single person in the raid. And if you have to do that twice a minute, it's a lot of HP.
These might just be mythic mechanics I'm reading, by the way.
Well, I mean, we're half an hour in here, 40 minutes in. We can look over to the mythic stuff, and I'll scroll down through here to make sure, because that's the good thing. We're comparing and contrasting the PTR notes to this, because those aren't in here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're totally right. So, yeah, Hunger for the End is mythic, and Feed is mythic.
Yeah, that's what I did reading it wrong.
But again, okay, this goes back to what Caber, Messi, and I talked about for Cabal. We had originally thought of a certain strat that could work for Heroic, but there's no reason to do that strat, because you can just do the mythic pacing in Heroic, because it'll be the exact same thing, which what we thought about before with Cabal. We wanted to go with the same ability at the same time 3 times in a row, but then that came back to only the Lightning Crown at the same time. But then that also, now, if we're going to practice for Mythic, you would do Lightning, wait a bit, then Lightning again to turn off the crown, because that's how the Mythic mechanic works, is that you have to turn on the relic and then turn off the relic with their HP of the bosses. Each once. Right. A, B, A, B, A, B. So then if these ads for Feed and Hunger need to be killed off like a teeter-totter, right? You're going to have Guardian burn, and then in phase 2, you're going to have Guardian and then Mindbender burn. I think you'd have to, again, do it at the same time. And the Mindbenders also get Void Step, which they can blink across the room. Well, they blink 60 yards, or can blink 60 yards away. So it just makes the chasing them down or controlling them, right? So pushes, pulls, keep them in control. This just seems like you would have to use the... When you use the crown, how often can you use it?
I think each
2-minute
one is a different
cooldowns in
time.
between each, but I think.
Because you can't just Storm of Annihilation and then do it again.
Oh no, it's 30 seconds for the crown.
The crown takes
4
30
minutes
seconds
per
to
person.
repower.
Correct.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
1 minute on the healer, 2 minutes on the tank, 30 seconds on the DPS.
Oh yeah. So that sort of settles it then. The pacing of the fight is the boss has his own things. We have to make sure we move correctly, and the Tilo's going to soak the garbage on the floor correctly at the right times. From a DPS side of things, there's going to be ads, cleave for a while, pick up the crown, heal us through it, make sure the ads get death touched. Next wave of ads, and you have to basically go back and forth in those waves of ads the entire fight. And since the Undying Guardians are going to be the ones that are spawning the entire fight, we'll basically get into a rhythm with Guardian phase versus Mindbender phase, because Mindbender phase will require a little bit more, push and pull, grips, interrupts, obviously.
Yeah.
But I don't know,
There's
Caber,
one more
you're
mechanic.
you're home now. Are you on your mic, or where are you?
Yeah, what's up,
It
hi?
is.
No,
There's
but
one more mechanic first. Let's cover, and then we'll discuss this.
okay.
On Mythic difficulty, it is Unstable Resonance, which is the Star Augur thing.
Yep.
Several players will be marked with either Storm, Ocean, or Void for 15 seconds, and they need to get to the relic, which corresponds to their debuff,
Yep.
within that 15 seconds, or they do lethal damage to all players within 10 yards. So,
Yep.
that's going to be fun.
Well, you have 15 seconds, so roughly 5 seconds per color call. It is more or less a stop, look, and listen. It's a stop, and then it's storms go, oceans go.
That's hard to do because even on
Voids go.
Star Augur, that was hard to do.
Well,
Does a
you think so? Well,
Yeah,
Oh,
in-
I see what you're
I
saying.
do think so. Like 15 seconds, is a lot of time, but like that
yeah.
is
A lot of
honestly going to be, especially because the room's huge to start, right?
Well,
well,
it
yeah,
doesn't
but we get confined more.
No. The confining is only in phase 1. The room
Does it-
stays.
oh,
The
okay.
room stays large in phase 2 and phase 3. The shortness, the
Oh, yes.
obscurity
I
is
thought
only
it-
phase 1.
I thought it keeps shrinking in each
Phase
phase.
one. No.
That's only phase 1.
It changes. That's his mechanic in phase. Because that's why they said to ignore it, because you get the room back after phase 1. So
Now-
70%,
Okay.
you basically.
I mean, if we get an unstable resonance in phase 1 when the room is real small, then we'll have to deal with it.
Yeah, exactly.
It depends on the timing of that, right? Because that's like in Star Augur, we would get you pull the boss and it's 7 seconds in is the first color call, that kind of thing. So, I mean, it's
So we're
like,
gonna have those people with those relics spread out as well. So
well, the relics are
Like-
stationary in the room in 3 positions, and they
I
drop.
thought they're on someone's head.
Well,
Yeah, I thought I believe it's an extra action button that you
Yeah,
get.
it's an extra action the whole time. You have it with you. Look at the video right now.
oh, you have to
They
pick,
have them.
Well, you
You
don't.
have to pick it up.
well,
Yeah, you carry it around.
you carry it around the whole time, and then you activate it.
Yeah, and you drop it then.
But
And
you
then
have
it
to.
restarts.
Because
You have to have
the
these
healer has to
dropped.
carry it around, right?
Now, well, hold on. Then, are they going to be carried when we're unstable? So, are you playing like
Yes.
a?
So we could have predetermined areas and
Yeah.
have the people move the stack point as we need. So Crown could run to Star and Voidstone to Diamond. We could already have an area so people aren't running over each other. They
Well,
can know what direction they're already running to.
We want to place the 3 relics where we know, but everyone else won't know what. But I don't know how that's going to work because
We don't even know if the relic people are going to get like
Marked.
that actual
Yeah.
mark either.
Well, yeah, but there's no way you'll get. Surely, there's no way you'll get Storm while you have Void, because then the Void people can't run to you or you blow up. So
yeah,
I
I don't. That's
won't
the.
happen.
We'll have to see. But that's also wondering is if do you want to have them picked up or do you want them on the ground for these calls?
I think you want them picked up because you could move the stack point away from or where you need it.
Sure.
Basically.
Either way, like that mechanic it's going to be a struggle bus, and I don't think you can have a set stack point because like 15 seconds is a lot of time, but it's also not a lot of time.
But what I mean by
Especially for
stack
people.
point is during the unstable, the crown moves to the left side of the
Oh
circle,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
where the void stone moves to the right side. So if you see you get void, you know my marker is going to be on the right side because
Oh yeah,
that's
yeah.
what we was
We have
told.
general rules of like this is
Yeah,
where voids meet up. This
section
is
off
where
the
stars.
room basically, so
Yeah,
that
Yeah.
yeah,
instead
yeah.
of
That's
running and looking, you know generally where you're going to be headed.
Yeah, I guess you do pick
yeah.
them up at the beginning of the
That's
fight.
totally
You just hold them.
easy.
Yeah, okay.
The hardest part will be like, hey, like your movement abilities, like blink at that. Don't use them.
Oh
You
yeah,
actually
don't run
physically.
into me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the yeah. Okay. We'll basically
You
we can
can't.
make 3 sections of the room. I
Mhm.
think it'll be enough. The one thing about unstable resonance that is
Like
these.
if you want to get really intense, you can place everybody in like this is your spot. This is your lane, and you move left and right on your lane, depending on your color, and then you match your color. Like you could do a lot of like min maxing with that,
Yeah, I think it
which
all
is maybe something
depends.
we'll look at.
Well, but
Yeah.
see, it all depends on the timings of everything else in the fight because
Yeah.
you're going to have to not only deal with this when ads are up, you may have to have a crown phase, or you'll have to deal with this with obviously the tanks are going to get marked. So does the tank can't run to you, not the tank that's tanking the boss. So you have to run to the tank if the marked person is the cleanse essentially. So it all comes down to those different interactions and especially if the room is small when we're doing this, or if we're obviously doing an Oblivion tear and we are soaking up all the crap on the ground so no one can be healed. So it all comes down to what overlap resonance calls are. And if they're the same, like if it's, 10 seconds in and then 1:30, 2:30, 4 minutes, 6 minutes, right? Just depends on what, because then you basically want to time things around those if those are locked in. And are they locked in based on when you phase the boss? So if you phase 1 may be the same every single time, but then if you push phase 1 faster or slower, does that change when the next resonances happen in phase 2 and phase 3?
Mhm.
And that's again, we choose that. So do you actually want to push phase 1 really fast, or do you want to let phase 1 sort of be a certain cadence to push at 3 minutes, right? So we line up the unstable resonances at these key times where we know there isn't going to be an ad phase. So it's making a Thogar style organizational flowchart, but it depends
Yep.
on the timings of the boss fight.
Yeah, totally.
He's
I know.
Well, go ahead. No, I'm just watching the video.
No, I was gonna say like the big thing is just like figuring out when we can use the relics, and like honestly like I feel like this is a major spreadsheet style boss where you're like we break down
Yeah.
everything that happens and timings and all that stuff. Like
Sure.
that's to me that's what I feel like it's gonna be. And then the mythic part of the mechanic is like it's just an added intensity and dance to it, right?
Well, because
Because I think once
the
you have it,
heroic ad control is very much doesn't matter as much.
yeah, it's very manageable.
But the mythic ad control is the added big parts where you can't leave the mindbenders up for very long. And you can't leave the guardians up for very long.
Yeah, otherwise you're just gonna get like yeah, you're just gonna get boned.
Yeah. Well, then
There's
you
nothing
can't.
you can do
You
about
won't,
it.
you won't be able to CC them anymore, and they will heal themselves again, and they last even longer. So,
Yep, exactly.
it's finding the cadence of when you deal with that, and I would like to, if we can try to figure that out in some way, and based on how we do it in heroic, we'll have to adjust it for mythic, sure, but I just wonder if we would do double AOEing down in phase 2, or we have to keep doing it, every other. So it's mindbender, AOE it all down, heal the raid, reset. Guardians, AOE it all down, heal the raid, reset.
Yeah, it's dependent on like the damage that's coming out to you, right? Because that is a ton of healing that's required.
That's why it sounds like a 5 heal fight to me.
Yeah, but like my first instinct is that it's going to be a 2. You're going to be doing. You're going to get 2 sets of ads no matter what each time, and then you're going to channel your lightning.
Right. I just don't think if that depends for Mythic though. If they're too spread out.
Mythic?
Yeah.
Mythic is like a whole. Like that's a fucking game. Have we gone into the stage 2 for Mythic yet or no?
Well, nothing changes in the entire fight except the ad mechanics. where the Guardians can't be up for too
Makes
long.
all of them hard.
Otherwise, they'll heal themselves and gain the stacking speed and damage done effect. Which
Yeah,
again,
they just start trucking the shit out of
yeah.
tanks.
And then the same
Well,
thing.
yeah, because they get a
The Mindbenders have the Void Step where they'll blink around and they get the stacking
that's
damage.
that's actually not the mind bender. That's
the Void Spawn. You're right. The little guys.
Yep.
The Shaw ads, which we won't see
Yeah.
if we do the fight properly, I guess.
Yeah, but like chances are, because if the mind benders cast that only when they die, right? Or consume episodes.
The Voids, no, Consume Essence is if they get the cast off. It's the
That's
same
their cast.
same ad from the end of Shrine.
Okay, but do they when they die? That's when they
Summon the
spawn
baby
those.
ads, yeah.
They summon babies. Like chances are, we honestly, I think we'll want them spawn. Because like a lot of people are talking like, can you just kite these ads forever and ever and ever? The void spawns, and theoretically you can,
Not a Mythic,
but
though.
not on mythic.
Yeah.
right. Oh,
That's the
yeah,
thing,
sure.
they
I
took
mean,
away
that's...
the ability.
Honestly, you could technically kite them all on mythic too, but it's gonna be eek.
Well, they'll get... At 15 stacks, they'll be immune to crowd control and interrupting effects, and they'll have
And
150%
do so much damage,
damage
yeah.
and healing done. That's
Yeah.
not important. I do like the idea of...
Viable.
I think blitzing the mind benders to oblivion and using the crown.
Stacking them with a guardian, maybe.
Well,
Like on that first guardian, stack them together.
it just
Oh
depends
yeah,
on,
you blitz.
it depends on timing because the crown has value regardless of when you use it, but you have to make sure it death touches the mobs.
Yeah, but we also need to be wary of how much damage it's going to do to us is the main defining of how often we can use
Well,
it.
each time those void spawns die, they explode on the raid, right?
Yeah,
If you kill them without the thunderstorm.
right.
Yeah. But like that's the thing, right? Too, like if that's healable, you technically could do like you do two sets of void spawns and just like drop all your fucking healing, and then you just and then you just pump through the next one, and then you do your thing, right?
But why wouldn't we just use our healing through the thunderstorm? You know,
True.
I mean, it's whatever is going to be the lesser of those. You know.
I guess it depends on how long the phase is, right? And like if our thunderstorm's up, because your chances are you're only going to get one thunderstorm, right?
Well, no,
Per phase.
every 30 seconds you can use it.
Yeah, it's going to be used very often.
Every 30
so-
seconds, yep. Yep. I mean, the Mythic Storm of Annihilation ticks for, in my dungeon journal, 35.7k nature a second for 15.
Mhm.
It's a lot. It's definitely a lot. That'll chunk you. Because there's also potentials I'm thinking about here about how killing the Mindbenders to the little ads and then having a dedicated team of people to actually target and kill a few at a time. So only a few explosions happen at a time and it's controlled and not like blitz down AoE and they all pop at once and we all die. So
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like you could technically control it. Like there's so much that you can. There's a lot of options here, but it's dependent on like obviously we'll see what happens ahead of us, right? And then we can make adjustments from there.
Yeah, I'm not super worried about the mythic stuff. We'll figure that out. We'll be able to watch it because this fight might die in 2 days or a week or whatever. And
Or 2 weeks if it's
Do you
insane.
think that lusting phase 2 to get out of that craziness is going to be the thing?
I think
or-
phase 2 is probably the hardest phase.
Yeah,
with all
it
the
looks,
ads.
it looks
Yeah.
like you can lose control easier there.
But like realistically, like the end of the fight is also very frustrating because of the mind controlling effect.
True,
But the gift of lunacy thing where you leech from other people, like that's not that
Well,
bad.
that's insatiable torment.
Yeah.
The lunacy
But like
is
that-
the everyone's
lunacy is
hostile.
the mind control. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like the insatiable torment, like I don't think it's that bad. That's 20k a tick each second though.
Maybe you got to think.
It's
It's going to be
Okay, so
you
a
taking
marks
damage.
marks a player for all consuming. The target suffers 20k tick every 1 second and triggers a feed on the unworthy every 2 seconds. And you're actually net losing health
Correct.
unless you have 2 people within range, right? Or is it only 1 person?
It's all
it's
people.
all
within-
allies. You
So
want
you
to
need
five yards or
so you need 2 people per insatiable torment.
to be even.
Yeah, so it's a 1 to 2 ratio to not just tick out and die.
Yep.
So I guess we can also like make teams of like
Could make teams.
you three are a squad, you three are a squad, you three are a squad.
Well, the squads will have to be organically created based on who gets torment.
Oh, yeah. Or you do like like honestly, you could just do like 5 here, 5 here, 5 here, or 4 here, 4 here, 4 here, like
Yeah,
melee
well,
team.
you don't want to. Well, you don't
Range
want to
1,
hit.
range 2, range 3, range 4.
You don't want to hit more than what you need to survive, though, because you're going to hit everyone. It says
Yeah.
life essence of allies within 5 yards, stealing 35,000 of their health. And if you're hitting 4 people to heal you, I feel like that's not super ideal. But I mean, we'll figure out how this is used, right?
Yeah, when you brought up the tank thing, I was like, ooh, that makes sense. Like the 2 off tanks.
Yep.
But-
If as long as the tormented people, if we're doing 3 tanks, if 3 tanks becomes a thing, if the tormented people
Have you
cannot
heard
feed on
much about
themselves.
this fight being a 3 tank thing, or is that just all speculation?
Well, in heroic, there's no reason to not 3 tank. Like, there's zero reason to not 3 tank or 4 tank. Who cares, right? It's heroic. You can bring 30 people.
Tanks.
Yeah, you can bring 30 people to heroic. There's no reason to not bring multiple tanks. It doesn't matter. It just depends on what we're going to bring for 20 man, which again is less important, I guess, for us to begin with, because we're going to get a lot of information from the Day Raiders and the World First Race again, sort of the World First Race again. So we'll find out. But there's a lot of little things that we can definitely go into with knowledge about before we get there. So that's really all I've got.
No, I think you guys covered pretty much everything for the most part. Yeah, I think it's a good
a lot of choices, which is always cool.
It's a heavily choice-based encounter. The only thing that comes down to how the fight will be balanced out and how it will feel is the numbers. How much HP do the ads have? How much damage do we have to do to the ads before we use the Tempest Caller? Do we use the Tempest Caller to help us actually DPS down the ads because it'll deal damage to them, but then it nerfs our damage, so we have to get the
Does
ads
the Tempest
low
Caller
enough.
do damage to the boss?
No, it
Or
hits
only-
lesser ads.
Lessers.
It'll hit the
Everything.
Mindbenders and the Guardians and us.
Yeah, Cabria one shots him at 25%.
Yeah.
I was
So-
asking more like if it just does damage at all.
I actually forgot about the damage reduction, because that's a thing we have to worry about too.
But you have to get the ads low enough so that when we
Yeah, but I
pop
mean,
the Tempest Caller, because we're all doing half damage when that's going on.
Yeah, for like 18 seconds or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a
That
15
That means
second.
we're not going to be able
hard
to
to-
reliably push. Like if we had him at 75% and had to kill the ad, that's going to leave us in phase. Just ideally, that's going to mess with our windows
Because
too.
if you look at like damage plateaus, and if it's a 30-second cooldown between Tempest Callers, you're not going to want to use it every 30 seconds because then it only gives us 12 seconds of full DPS uptime every minute, which is horrible. So you're going to want to look at once per minute, I guess. Once per minute, I suppose.
Yeah, and then heavy use in phase 2 maybe. So heavier rather.
So, and the thing like with the Trident of the Deep Ocean, right? Like if you don't use that absorb, it does damage to everybody. I think
If you don't absorb enough, the leftover is.
it'll do a bunch to the raid. I think.
Well, it reads here when Embrace of the Void expires, so I'm assuming this. I don't know if this is the debuff that it calls on the tank when they pop Custody of the Deep, because Embrace of the Void is the absorb
Healer
shield
one.
from the healer one. So I think that's just a typo in the dungeon journal. And this is the same debuff from using this. So it'll have a health bar, and if we don't put enough damage into it, then whatever's left hits us.
Yep.
Right.
So then this also means that we could do a Mindbender phase where we just kill the Mindbenders and then AoE all the ads down as a group, but use the Custody of the Deep to stop us from getting blitzed from that, because 75% of all of their exploding little Shaw babies go into the shield instead of us.
And so
that's
that's another potential for
There's
us.
two
Rather
ways-
than lightning storm something.
Correct.
we
Or
could
you
use
lightning
that.
storm something with the shield. Like there's so much to.
It's cool. It's heavily
Play with.
tailored to what your raid can do.
Correct.
So it's really nice.
Yeah. The only thing
But
that,
define what works best for us.
the big question mark is, if you talk about heroism phase 2, which I think might be a good one, is you have to time it between lightning crowns.
Lightning. Yeah.
So you have to be able to do your full 40 to 50 second burn window, lining it up with,
Well, if
say,
we do
3
what
minute-
you said, like as soon as the mindbenders come out, everybody blitz, kill the undying off with the mindbenders with the one lightning storm, lust right after, or something
It might be like a wait for 3-minute
that.
cooldowns to come back up again,
Yeah,
maybe,
that's
depending
right,
on the
yeah.
timing. So you could actually, you clear phase 1, clean up, you start phase 2, you corral, you clear phase 2. If it's between 3 and 4 minutes, then that's when you would lust to burn the boss to get out of that phase. And you would do it around the debuff, so you're not obviously lusting during the crown, 'cause you can't do that. It's terrible. Yeah, there'll be some timing windows, because again, you can also do phase 1 and get out of that without even using the crown at all, to save healer cooldowns for phase 2 crowns, and then just do 2 dumb AoE phases with the stupid void ads, but then you have to at least do 1 crown to kill off the guardians, or 2 crowns, but at the beginning and the end of the phase. So it's very much like Caber said, very spreadsheety. Very spreadsheety, I think. That's
Cool.
that's all I got.
That's
Anyone have
awesome.
any questions about
I think we're
anything?
good.
Or
We're good.
alrighty then. That is going to be the Uunat encounter. Uunat, the Harbinger of the Void. This is the end boss of the new Crucible of Storms mini raid coming out. And we sort of went through everything sort of organically in that learning sense. There's a lot to figure out and parse together, but maybe this will help you out with some of your learning process if you're going to jump in on day 1 and sort of piece together the different things and bring up some scenarios and like, oh, that's a good idea. Well, we should try that too. So thank you very much for watching and or listening. And I guess the raid boss breakdown little discussion videos will be back when we get to the Eternal Palace of Queen Ajara. Wherever that's going to be. August? I don't even know.